It was sitting number 34, which was run in camera and chaired by the Right Honorable Speaker, Dr. Jemanunu Kumba. In attendance of this closed sitting yesterday were the members of the economic cluster. And when I talk about the members of the economic cluster, I mean the ministers under the economic cluster. All of them were here, in addition to the Commissioner General of the National Revenue Authority. It was a very cordial sitting between the TNLA and the ministers of the economic cluster, plus the Commissioner General of the Revenue Authority. What were the issues tackled in that sitting? Issues tackled in the sitting included the general economical situation in the country, in emphasis in regards to non-payment of salaries, availability of essential services or goods to the people, the rise in the dollar, because today in South Sudan or in Juba here, you even want to buy mokshasha, the owner will tell you the price equivalent to the dollar. And we feel this is a very serious economical crisis facing our country. So, in that sitting, we were thankful and appreciated the response of the members of the economic cluster, especially the Minister of Finance, who dwelled at length on the issues of salaries and what is the way forward in solving the issue of salaries and arrears of salaries, which have gone in some institutions to about 10 months. Availability of essential commodities. You, as gentlemen of the press, might have heard that there had been announcement by the economic clusters that they have set up stations to sell essential food items. But as we move around in the town, really it is difficult to find where these centers are and who are actually selling it and who are buying it. Based on that, ways forward were designed. If at all these commodities are there, the Parliament advised the economic cluster for the best method of how these commodities can be made available to the people and the working force. In that one, we suggested that areas like this ministerial complex where the Parliament is, the ministries are, the working force, in Juba, for instance, majority of them are within this compound. Is it not better to put a center here for easy accessment to these commodities? This was accepted, and that the people concerned in that were going to urgently consider this. In regards to the Parliament, a way forward was that to finish these 9 months or 10 months in some departments, definitely it is not possible for us to request the Minister of Finance that you pay all this money in 1 month. No, we understand the situation we're in, And so the members, plus the economic cluster, suggested a way forward to the Ministry of Finance how they can handle and pay the differences of the arrears and then pay salaries regularly. It was suggested that for these 9 months, let them be divided into 3 installments of each 3 months to be paid. And it was agreed by the cluster that depending on the resources available for them, this one will be put into consideration. But what is important is that the minister made it clear he is about 1 month, a few days in office. He took it upon himself that he will make sure while he's struggling to pay the arrears to all the working force, he's struggling very hard that no more arrears will be accumulated. That is to say, every month, people will get their salary. And he said, when he came to the office for the last month, he has fulfilled his promise and 1 month was paid. Today is about 10 days or towards the end of this month, he will also make sure that salaries will be released to the working force. In summary, he doesn't want more accumulation of salary arrears as he moves forward. The general economic situation is mainly going to be tackled by the budget, he said by the budget. But the members of parliament urged him that, in fact, this budget being talked about is overdue. It was supposed to be presented here before the 30th of June. So the minister was urged that the parliament would like to see the budget table in the nearest possible time, because the minister was dwelling that to address mainly this economical crisis, he has made a plan of how to settle it, and he doesn't want to preempt because he is going to explain it when the budget will be tabled. And he assured the House that it will not be long before he comes to the House to present this budget, and he is calling also upon the members of the parliament to look into it critically, taking this economical situation of the country. So this was what aspired in the close or the sitting in camera. Yes, the Commissioner General of the Revenue Authority, in fact, gave a lengthy report on the collection of the non-oil revenue, which to the members, they were satisfied that this money collected would be enough to pay the salaries. And the Commissioner General says he is not a spending agency. He collects all this money with some of the figures he showed to the House yesterday in that sitting. And it is remitted to the Ministry of Finance, which is the custodian and the one to spend. Of course, it goes to the account of the ministry in the Bank of South Sudan. So how it is spent, he is not part of it. And the House had urged him actually to make monthly announcement of how much money is being remitted to the ministry so that the public know what is happening. And this was a point he took. And that in the coming budget of this year, of last year, which ended on the 30th of June, they had actually surpassed the limit of the collection. They collected more than what was expected from them in the budget of last year. But also, in this year, they have been asked to redouble their efforts to make sure they collect more revenues. He said, in fact, South Sudan is the least country in the East African community, or even in the world, in collecting taxes from non-oil revenue. And the fact that we are now members of the East Africa community, we must adopt the same measures how taxes are collected in the East Africa community where we are members. And that, of course, this is going to be high. But he identified that there are certain goods, essentials, which taxation will not be raised. But they are luxury goods. And he gave an example, not of the body lotions, because all of us, whether we are male or female, we use body lotions. But there are those lotions of skin complexity. I think you will understand that. Those are the ones where the taxes are going to be raised very high. For instance, spirits, alcohol, whiskeys, and so on, these are not essential goods. So the tariff for collection of taxes from them is going to jump up very high. Because after all, if you don't drink, you will not die. But if you don't eat, definitely you will suffer and maybe you will die. So those luxury goods, wherever they are, the taxes are going to be high. And he urged the House to support these new taxes which are going to be introduced. For food commodities, which is also tied to fuel, the taxes are not going to be raised very high, and not even to the standard of the East African community. Because for us here, most of the things are connected to transport. And by transport, we mean fuel, diesel, petrol, the lubricants, and so on. But the emphasis of the country as of now, and in the coming budget, as it was stated yesterday, the emphasis is going to be how we can improve our agriculture in the Republic of South Sudan, with the target also of how we can maintain peace in our country, with all these efforts going, whether being the Tumaini and so on. Because when we are stable and the security is all right, people will be able to cultivate and so on. Yes, these luxurious things is not only tied to these lotions. Even these vehicles you have talked about was one of the topics raised. What are the vehicles necessarily needed in the Republic of South Sudan? There are other tycoons who feel they have the money and they can bring the latest vehicle in the world. to show Shufuni Dana Yaumade. This is not going to be allowed because we are going to concentrate on necessities. What is necessary? So that issue of the vehicles also was tackled. What is that the government needs really to accelerate development? This was tackled very well. To be frank, yesterday we dealt mainly the Minister of Finance, the Petroleum, and the Revenue Authority. The rest, we said, no, let us have priority. We took these three because they are really the spearhead of the economic cluster. The goal came up roughly, but people say, no. Ito, kede standard. Let us finish with these three. And then commerce also is very essential. These are the people connected with the trade and so on. Those are also going to come. The parliament discovered for itself that to invite all those ministers with the Commissioner General of the Revenue Authority was not possible for them all to present their report in one sitting, as was the case yesterday. And this was in the beginning of the sitting. So we said, what are the priorities? Let us take them by priorities. And the priorities happen to have been these three institutions: finance, the oil, and the Commissioner General of the Revenue Authority. And when they started talking, these three people, explaining and so on, we thought we could tackle them one by one, Minister of Finance, and then we discuss about the Minister of Finance. This one, the members say, no. If we are going to take it like that, maybe even up to the end of this year, we are not going to cover them all. So they agreed that, okay, let us have them 3-3. So we dealt with the three first, and the next are going to follow. Because we feel these three actually are the most important. We have, what do you call the wildlife? And tourism. We have the fisheries. We had the agriculture. We had the mining. They are all important. But these are people collecting the money and taking to who? To the bank and to the spending agency, which is the Ministry of Finance. They don't spend the money themselves. So we found that these three were very, very important. Let us start with them. Also, in the course of the discussion, the members found that they have left out one very important institution. That is to say, the Central Bank of the Republic of South Sudan, because it was not among the institutions summoned to come. But during the course of discussion and the explanation from these ministers and the Revenue Authority, we found that the central bank, the governor, is important to be summoned also to Parliament and give us the version of the story when the money goes there. What happens to it? And this issue of the money being collected by the Revenue Authority, and before it reaches the central bank or the Ministry of Finance, there are other runways where this money goes. It was agreed and accepted that all those loopholes will be sealed, will be closed. No money goes somewhere except to the account of the Minister of Finance in the Bank of South Sudan. It was accepted as a fact that yes, there were such things happening. And in conclusion, it was agreed that all those holes must be closed and we only have one channel as was directed by the president. And the minister said, I was given that very short time as the president said to have one channel. So one of the strategies of the Ministry of Finance, he was informing the House, is that there is only going to be one traffic without a branch or a stopping somewhere. That is the biggest challenge he is going to take as the Minister of Finance.